Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Full Circle Network. This is Jacob Campbell. I'm the lead news writer over at Full Circle Cinema. Today, we're going to be discussing Doom Patrol Episode 4 with you guys, Sex Patrol. And we got a great group of people here today. Joining me is Ernie.
Hey guys, how's it going?
All right, cool. Also, we have Katie Gilstrap.
Hello, everyone. What's up?
What's up?
All right, cool. So, starting off, I really thought this was a great episode, especially after the first three we've seen. It gave us a great look at the characters again, especially the Danizens. And honestly, this was one of the wildest episodes the show's ever had. Which every time I say that, they just up it even further. So the fact that they can still do that into the season 2 is just amazing. Ernesto, what were your thoughts?
Uh, I thought it was a solid episode. I don't think it is as great as the first three, but it's still a stellar episode. It has an interesting narrative structure in that the story is structured around how many hours before and after Dorothy's bedtime, which I thought was a fun, clever little thing they put in to spice up the narrative of the story and have it hop around to wherever it needs to go. And I just thought it was a really good episode. It had some odd moments at the beginning, but it found its stride towards the middle and the end, and it was pretty fantastic in the last two thirds of the episode, I think.
Awesome. Katie, what did you think?
Yeah, I'd have to agree with Ernesto. This is probably of the 4 episodes we've seen so far. This is probably my favorite, just because going back to last season, the episodes featuring Danny and the Danizens, I guess. Those were some of my favorites overall. And I always thought they brought a really good message to the forefront of the show, which is kind of accepting yourself and realizing that sometimes you just have to make space. And so ultimately, it was a really good episode. The last 2/3, like Ernie said, were the better part.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I thought the last 2/3 of the episode were really great. Some of the other people that get screeners were talking about it, and they mentioned that they felt the beginning of the episode was kind of cringy with Dorothy and how the Danizens were interacting to get Danny to open back up. I don't know. I thought it was kind of cute actually, and it kind of if since it was centered around Dorothy and she's so young mentally and everything, I thought it was kind of cool to see everything from her perspective in that sense. And like Ernesto said, having it revolve around her bedtime added to that kind of factor. And I just thought it was a cute episode up until like the last 2/3 where it just went into full Doom Patrol craziness. And what I really thought was great was that a lot of the characters that came from in this episode, the Sex Patrol, the Shadow and Mr. Evans, the issues that they're from the comics, it was like literally exactly like it happened in the comics, and I think the fact that they did that was insane because of just how weird the storyline is. What did you guys think about the storyline itself, Ernie?
Uh, I think what it excelled most at was that despite its zaniness, it still managed to keep its focus on the heart of the show, which is the Doom Patrol itself, our characters, Negative Man, Robotman, Crazy Jane, Rita. I like that they each had got their due diligence in this episode. I feel like they balanced it all really well, and Dorothy, of course, too. Now, um, I I really enjoyed what each character had to go through specifically, and I think my particular favorite standout is obviously Dorothy, since this episode had the strongest focus on her and her coming to the realization that that she has to start growing up a little bit.
I agree. Katie, what did you think?
Yeah, I'm again, I agree with Ernesto completely, but Abigail Shapiro is absolutely amazing in this role. She got a lot of props for the first 3 episodes, and I think she continues to kind of excel here. Um, the bedtime aspect combined with Dorothy trying and realizing that she has to grow up just a little bit, I thought that was a neat play off each other, because one of the things about growing up is that your bedtime doesn't stick around further. So I thought that was a neat kind of play off each other there.
Oh
But
yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked how they tied in Rita's story though. Like, it's definitely weird.
Yeah.
I was sitting with my mouth open at the screen for like the last third part of the episode, but ultimately I think the tie-ins were all really great. And yeah, like I said, the bedtime combined with Dorothy realizing she's got to grow up, that was a nice touch.
I definitely agree with that. And what I really thought was interesting development for Dorothy in this episode was her relationship with the Candlemaker, because we've seen so far in those first 3 episodes that he's trying to get Dorothy to make these wishes and make her rebel, but at the end of the episode, he doesn't want to talk to her anymore. And I think that'll be interesting to see how that develops later on in the season, where okay, he's pushed her away now, but what does he still need from her, and how is that gonna work itself out throughout the season? But seeing her kind of grow up in that like issue she had with, is she gonna kill Danny? Is she gonna stab the brick? That was I genuinely didn't know where they were gonna go with it, and I think that tension that they built up between her decision was really good. It was kind of cool to see how they worked that out. The one part of this episode that I felt was kind of the weaker elements was the subplot with Jane, because they built up this idea that there's this rebellion in the underground, and I was kind of curious to see how long that would go on for, and to see that just end in this episode with them giving the body back to Jane instead of keeping it from her for a while. I don't know. I kind of wanted to see that go on for a little bit longer. What did you guys think about that, Ernie?
I think, I mean, I agree with you in that I feel like it should have lasted longer, but at the same time, we already have so many different juggling story arcs as it is. So I'm glad that they were able to give her just this little development arc in just this single episode. I think it had a satisfying enough inclusion, but I see where you're coming from in that it could have lasted longer and could have been a more compelling plot point. But I mean, who knows? It's not, there's still a few more episodes left. This rebellion might, just come back.
True, that's a good point. Katie, how did you feel about Jane's subplot in the episode?
I would agree with you as well. Like, I think there could have easily been some more integration with some of her personalities. Maybe they switch off, and maybe the heads kind of switch on. Like, you could have seen Thunderhead, the tall woman, like they all come in and they say, "No, I don't want to be here," or something. Like, so I think we should have seen more personalities try and take the main role in the body, I guess, before ultimately handing it back to Jane. But as always, I think Diane Guerrero does a fantastic job managing all of the people she's got to act as.
Oh my god, yeah, I definitely agree with that. She's just an amazing actress, and the way she's able to just move between each of the different personalities is great. I wish we had seen. I agree with you. I wish we had seen more of the personalities take control. Like, all we really got was we got the Hangman's daughter and Scarlet Harlot, and that was kind of. And then what was it? Hammerhead came out in the end.
Yeah.
I wish we'd seen more of them show up and see their take on leading Jane's body. Mm-hmm. So that would have been kind of cool if they had done that. Sorry.
Oh, no, I was just gonna say I'm really interested to see if we'll ever see Kay. Like, they always mention Kay. I want to know more about Kay.
Yeah, I definitely want to see more about Kay as well, and I like that there's still so much of these characters' backstories that we will get to see, like with Rita and her issues that she was trying to work through in this episode in the weirdest way possible. There's still so much that they can work through, and I definitely want to see more about Kay. So I think that'll be great to work out later on. And I definitely agree with what Ernesto mentioned, that we can see the subplot come back later on. I feel like if Jane keeps staying with the Doom Patrol, they'll probably pop up later on.
Yeah.
Yeah. What did you guys think about the villains this episode? What did you think about the Shadow of Mr. Evans? Which is the greatest bad guy name ever.
I think that laugh sums it up. It's pretty insane. Mm-hmm. Pretty ridiculous. Pretty out there.
Mm-hmm. Doom Patrol in a nutshell.
Yes.
Yeah.
Honestly, I was not prepared for it, and really, like, as soon as I saw the email that said, "Oh yeah, your screener's in your inbox," I didn't even pay attention really to the name. I love the show so much, and then I get to the point where we're like, "Oh, wait, what is he?" And then the sex, I guess the sex workers or whatever they are. Okay.
Was it
The sex men.
The sex
men.
men, yeah.
God, dang. So the sex men come in and I'm like, wait, he's what now? Excuse me? And then the episode ends and I'm like, okay, what the heck did I just watch? Why did I love it so much? And then I look at the episode title and I'm like, oh, Sex Patrol. I should have looked at the title.
And it's just such an absurd episode, but it just works so well. And I always love that Cyborg is kind of like the normal person, and so he's kind of our character. He's like our doorway into the episode. So he's asking the questions we're asking. He's like, "What did you just call Shadow Mr. Evans?" He's a sex demon. Oh, okay, yeah, that works. Yeah, that totally works. And I love how serious the sex men took their job, because it's such an absurd job hunting sex ghosts and sex demons in the DC universe. And it's just that's so perfect. I love it.
Basically, just Ghostbusters, but for sex.
Bro, when they were walking down the hallway, looking for the Shadow Mr. Evans, it looked exactly like Ghostbusters, and I loved it. With them just walking behind, like I was waiting. Well, and then the sex ghost popped up, so it was exactly like that.
And then they actually had names that were all sex related. And
my god, yes.
I was dying.
Hold on, what were their names? There was Cuddles. Oh, what were the other ones' names? What was one?
Oh, Dildo was one of them, wasn't it?
I think so. Yes. When they were in the sex van, I assume that's what it was called, and like they had random things throughout the van. I was like, how is this a show? How am I watching this right now? Hold up. What were their names? I need to double check their names. Marcos.
While Jacob is checking that,
yeah.
What I think is an overlooked or underrated part of the series so far, I mean, I don't know if I can necessarily call it underrated, but I think it's something that's overlooked, is Robotman's relationship with the Chief right now. I really feel like that's a really interesting parallels that those two are going through, in that Robotman, Cliff, is struggling with his relationship with his daughter and trying to prove her that he was a good father before this happened and that he can be a good father. But really, he's going through the same exact problems that the Chief is going through. And the Chief is trying to handle his daughter in relationship as well. And having those two have this parallel story arc and them just clashing with each other every so often in these episodes, and Chief trying to make these things right, I think is a really compelling part of this show that I hope they continue to explore in later episodes.
Yeah. I definitely agree with that. It's what I like that they left this room for the characters to try and work out their differences after season 1. And so seeing Robotman and the Chief struggle in the same way to help their daughters, it's kind of great to see them almost relate to each other on that level. And I want to see that develop throughout the episode. Also, their names were Cuddles, Kiss, and Torture, by the way.
Oh, why did I think there was a dildo?
I think there was one in the van, probably. The other part of the episode I really liked, it was as out there as the other characters. Negative Man, when he was just kind of, when Larry was in the room dancing with everyone, he just seemed kind of like away from everyone else. And I think it shows that he's still trying to come to grips with who he is as a person. When he seemed so like at home with the Danizens in season 1, but he seemed a little out of place this episode. Like he's still struggling with who he wants to be. How did you guys feel about that?
Yeah, I agree with that. I really liked that they showed that even when he tries to fit in, he's still struggling with it. And the fact that I really like that scene where he's dancing and tells them, he's like, oh yeah, if I take off these bandages, everyone in the room will die, so can't take them off. And the person leaves. Oh, yeah. And he's just sort of sitting there by himself, and he starts sulking, and he's kind of negative for the rest of the episode, pun intended.
I like what you did there.
But I liked where it was going. I want to see how he seems to be going in sort of a downward spiral since the last episode, so we'll see if he's going to be able to pick himself up after that.
Yeah, definitely. After losing his son, and then after putting those other people through torture in Pain Patrol, it seems like he's at a much worse place. Much worse. Okay. He's at a worse place than he was around the end of season 1, where he was he felt like he belonged in a way with the Doom Patrol, and now he seems even more so the outsider than he already was. But I really liked the scene where him and Rita were dancing together, and that kind of showed their friendship that they have for each other. But then when she ultimately walked off, I think that also showed how alone he still is. Katie, what were your thoughts on that? Negative Man's place in the episode.
Really, I disagree with both of y'all. I think I guess the body double and Matt Bomer do a great job with Negative Man and really portraying his emotions a lot, because I mean you can't see behind those bandages, excuse me. So like it's a really nuanced performance, but I think it really works. And yeah, he seemed very accepting of his. He seemed more open on Danny. God, I don't know how to say this. He seemed more open in season 1 with the Danizens and everything. But this one, he seemed a little closed off. I think that could be more to do with finding his grandson, in the last episodes. Mm-hmm. And just kind of leading into his emotional state from that as well. I did like the play on the bandages thing, because I didn't understand why he was wrapping the bandages in the first season. So I'm really glad we finally got that explanation.
Yeah, everyone just dies. Everyone will die. And I love how he said it like so nonchalantly. I just love that.
Yeah. I think the only person we haven't talked about now is the one who probably had the most important character development, which was Rita, with a little side adventure with Flex Mantello, if you want to call it that.
I think that's the best way for us to call it that, so we don't get taken off YouTube. I think that's the best way to call it.
Yeah.
I loved how, because that scene in season 1 where Flex does whatever he does to the entire Danny.
Flexes the wrong muscle.
Yeah, when he flexed the wrong muscle on Danny the Street. That's one of my favorite scenes from season 1, because it's so absurd and it's so funny. And every time it pops up on my timeline on Twitter, it's the funniest thing, because it's the perfect scene for Doom Patrol, of how weird it is. And I love how they kind of brought that back, but it brought up new issues for the team to work through. And Rita's development with it, trying to overcome the struggle she has to use her powers, and that it's
this mental block of hers.
Yeah, and now that it's,
as she puts it.
Yeah, now that she's kind of like realized what that mental block is, I want to see how she comes to work through it. At this point,
that was some heavy stuff. That got really dark. Doom Patrol likes to do that. They come in with all these crazy zany things, and then they slip in something pretty dark and level-headed and real. Like, oh, there's also this, and this is at the root of all this. You know,
Yeah.
Just reality, just humanity. You know, got pretty dark, but also it was hilarious.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I've been really liking Rita a lot, and because she seems like, the way she was interacting with Dorothy at the beginning of the episode, she seemed like a mother figure in a way. And she's told Dorothy that she's beautiful and everything. I was like, that's so great. And then at the end of the episode, when she tells her what her own mother told her, that she's great in other ways and that she should work on other talents, I was like, oh my God, that like, it hit really hard. And it kind of shows once again that these characters still have a lot to work through.
And then it comes again full circle when she tells it to Dorothy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It made me pretty bummed out.
Yeah.
Like, after all this craziness, and they just wanted to end it on a kind of bleak note.
Yeah.
But man, that was Sex Patrol, man. That was a crazy episode.
It was a crazy episode. It was hilarious. It was dark. There were sex ghosts. And I don't know how else to describe it.
Oh, I just want to say one more thing.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked. I always like seeing Flex Mentallo use his powers. It's such a joy to watch.
Yes. Oh my God. Let's actually before we wrap up, let's talk about Flex a little bit in this episode. I'm so glad he popped back up, because he's one of my favorite characters from season 1. Because everyone else in the Doom Patrol, like they're at such terrible places, and it always feels like their powers are like a curse for them. But Flex seems so happy and put together, and he knows how to use his powers. He knows how to interact with everyone, and it's kind of cool to see him come in and try to help out those around him. Like when he tried to boost Dorothy's confidence when he's trying to fix Danny the Street. I love when he shows up, and I really hope this isn't the only time we see him this season, because I would love to see more of him.
Yeah.
Played by the fabulous Devin Long. He's so great in this.
Oh,
He's awesome. So great. Props to him.
Mm-hmm.
Good job.
Please be in more episodes.
Please.
Yes, please. If you're, I know you're watching this. I know you look up our podcast.
We
know.
We know you're
come
listening.
Back.
We know.
Come back for the finale at least.
Mm-hmm. You and the Dannysons just keep coming back, because I love the Dannysons. Because once again, even they seem more happy than the rest of the Doom Patrol, because they've accepted who they are, and I feel like that's the whole point of the show. Like Katie mentioned earlier, just accepting yourself and growing to love yourself.
Exactly.
And
that's a good note to end on.
I feel like that's the positive note we need to end on.
Yeah.
But before we wrap up, where can everyone find you guys, Ernie?
You can find me on Twitter at thisis_Ernesto. Also, fullcirclecinema.com. It's going to be in the description, going to be in the picture. Read our reviews, read our articles. Yeah.
Awesome. Katie?
You can find me on Twitter at KGILShop13. You can also find me reviewing Doom Patrol Weekly on fullcirclecinema.com and all my other reviews there as well.
Awesome. And
let's go.
And I am Jacob Campbell. You can find me on Twitter at JacobCamp13. Follow us on Twitter at FullCircleCine, and follow at Comic Corner _. Oh yeah, it's gonna stay in. All right, thanks guys.
Okay. See you guys.
Bye.